Good morning, neighbors. Welcome. This is June Margolin from Huntington Matters. Behind the camera is Dana Richter, our Vice President, monitoring the video, and who just left the room, Diane Shaver, monitoring the audio. We are in our election 2025 candidate series, and today is our first interview for supervisor. We are here with our current supervisor, Ed Smith. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate this. We love having the chats, especially from the incumbents, because there's so many more details we get to learn, you know, of how the town works. So we're going to dive right in. We have a hard stop at 45 minutes. So Supervisor Smith, tell us about yourself and why you decided to step forward to serve our community as town supervisor.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of the town, so I've always had my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the town. I stepped up as town supervisor on the heels of being on the town council for 4 years. And when the previous supervisor decided he wasn't running for re-election, I was approached as a town councilman saying, hey, do you want to run? And the answer was yes, emphatically. And I've never regretted it. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I love the job. I love the town. I love doing the work that's involved. Maybe a little too much. You know, my wife is
missing you.
Yeah, well, I think I like to believe that she is missing me. But it does require a lot of work in the evenings. That's part of the role of an elected official, because most civic groups don't meet during the workday. They meet in the evenings. I like to say it's a 5 to 9 job. It's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Is when you're out meeting people. But I enjoy that. I've been a lifelong resident of the town. I love the town. I wanted to get involved 8-10 years ago, and I got involved by starting out on the town council and really learning the intricacies of not only the operations in town hall, but all the nuanced issues throughout the town and in neighborhoods and hamlets, because every neighborhood has its own issue.
It's true.
Every single neighborhood. And until you get out there and meet the folks that live there, the civic groups, and talk to them, and over the course of time, you just start learning to use a News 12, not to give them a plug, but I'll steal one of the News 12. It's hyper local information, that you get by being on the town council first, and then as town supervisor, it's not just hyper local to the neighborhood. It's now the phone calls individually. You get to know who the voice of a neighborhood is.
Very true. So I know this isn't on the list, but I'm going to ask a quick question. I've always wondered this. So being that you came as town council, then went to supervisor, do you think it was valuable to be a town board member first?
Invaluable.
Or do you think you could step in as supervisor from not being a town board member?
You certainly can, but it's
okay.
the learning curve is very steep.
Yeah.
And if you come from outside and come in, certainly you're going to have a lot of help from a lot of people.
That's
and
good.
I certainly did. When I came in as supervisor, there were key people in the building at the time that I was lucky enough, and the town was lucky enough to have very senior, the senior management of the town, the directors and deputy directors, were
Pat Delco?
She was there.
Yeah.
No, I think she had left during Chad's administration, but there were a lot of senior people in the senior management roles in the town that had been with the town for 15 and 20 years, a long time. And several of them had said to me after the election, they said, listen, I'm looking to retire very soon. And I approached several of them and said, please just give me the first quarter of 2022, and they did, thankfully, so that there was a transition. And we would have people working with them so that we could get their institutional knowledge and do that. But for the most part, it was a very smooth transition from Lupinacci to me.
Yeah.
And we kept most of the people on, but the double-edged sword of having very experienced, very senior management in the town is that many of them are getting ready to retire. So oftentimes the folks that have been there for 15, 20, 30, some of them 30 years, they're all looking to,
Yeah.
to retire. So
Yeah.
you try to keep those people in the building. But that was,
Okay.
so yes, the answer is being on the town council was extremely helpful.
Yeah, but not a requirement.
Not, of course not a requirement.
Because I would have thought, like, I don't know. To me, it's just such a huge job that I'm just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm being waved at. Okay. And when they wave, it's not for you, it's for me. They're redirecting me, not you.
That's refreshing.
Yes, so don't worry about it. They flail wildly. What have you accomplished in your elected position or work experience that you are the most proud of that directly benefits our community?
Well, first and foremost is the taxes. I mean, that's one of the issues that we hear about literally every day. It's taxes, and I've been a fiscal hawk for the town for the last 4 years. We've and while I was on the town council as well, we've had the budget under the tax cap every year I've been in office. We have zero fiscal stress score from the state comptroller. The bond rating has been raised. I mean, everything from a fiscal standpoint in the town is doing great.
Yeah,
frankly.
And honestly, when you read the papers after the New Year's and things, and there's so many towns that do have to pierce the cap.
Yeah, I think last year on Long Island.
I'm surprised. I'm waiting. I'm like, are we going to do it? No, okay.
Not this year. We just dropped a new the 25 budget. Excuse me, 26 budget under the tax cap as well. Yeah. So. Taxes in the fiscal side is clearly and it's probably as town supervisor, it's probably the most important role, because through the budget is where you set policy. Because nothing happens without funding, and you have to make hard decisions as to what projects are getting funded and when, and how can you space them out? Can you do it in phases? All of these long-term planning decisions have to be made, and you have to look 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, depending on the type of project it is. And, these are the type of things that we deal with year round, to get prepared to put it on paper and when we submit the budget.
Very good. All right. What do you have to say to disengaged voters who think their vote doesn't matter? How will you inspire them to get to the polls?
Well, every vote matters. Every vote counts. There's no question it's difficult to get folks engaged on a local race, particularly when the top of the ticket is not the president or the governor or a U.S. senator or a congressman or the county executive or the district attorney or the county sheriff. Right. It's me. and I shouldn't say I pride myself, but it's one of the hallmarks of my administration is no drama. And I tell people, no drama. Boring is good. Stay focused on parks, beaches, roads, and garbage. That's what your local municipal government should be doing, and that's what we have done. But in order to maintain a drama-free government and a boring government, which I think is what the residents are looking for, come election season, it's hard to flip the light switch on and say, "Hey, everybody, we are exciting." when we've been very unexciting for 3.5 years. And all of a sudden, that's certainly a challenge. But it's local politics. So what we do is we go knocking on doors. Every afternoon we're out knocking on doors and talking to voters and asking them to come out and vote for us. We tell them what our issues are and what we've done, what we're planning to do, and ask them for their vote. You have to, it's politics 101. You have to ask for the vote. So please vote.
Different. It does mean something when you meet your candidates face to face.
Yes.
They're the boogeyman on the mailers. And then when you meet them face to face, it's like, wow, okay, great. And you realize the impact you can have with your vote. Yeah,
there is no substitute for knocking on doors and meeting voters at their front door. Yeah. You'll learn more there than anywhere else. Public meetings or public forums or anything else. You learn by far. You learn more as an elected official knocking on people's doors and talking to them on their front door, because you're now in their safe space where they will open up. And believe me, when they're not happy, they have no reservations about letting you know when they're not happy, especially when you're on their doorstep. So that's where you get the unvarnished answers from the residents. And again, it's hyper local. So when you're in their neighborhood, you find out about, you know, that pothole or that area of flooding, or you know, the house that's abandoned and things like that. You're like, these are the things that, you know, that you hear about at front doors that you don't hear about at a town board meeting.
That's a good question for next year.
Yeah.
Let's write that down.
And you get more than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, you get as long as they'll talk to you for.
Yeah, that's great. All right, magic wand.
Yes.
If you could guaranteed to get exactly what you want right away, what is something you would fix or improve in the town of Huntington, and what is something you never want to make changes to?
Great question.
That's Megan.
Yeah. There you go.
She's great.
First and foremost, I would, you know, Andre has paved, I think, about 300 miles of roadway with the highway department.
Yeah.
It's 300 miles out of 875 miles. So I think if I could have you know, my Santa Claus list, first item of business, Andre, I hope you're watching this, is I would get the funding to do the other 575 miles right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that, you know, highway money is always money well spent, with Andre at the helm, certainly, because he spends it wisely, and he maximizes every dollar that he gets in the highway department, whether it's through actually paving roads and or renovating heavy equipment, putting new equipment that's been sitting in the highway yard, you know, and not being used for years. It's sitting dormant, and he gets it back onto the road and gets it out. In fact, I was driving here today, and I saw a large tree truck taking down a tree at Huntington Village that, you know, that I believe that truck hadn't been on the road for years, and he got it up and running. So anyway, I think highway money is money well spent. That's where I would
use your magic wand.
Use my magic wand on roads in Huntington, and drainage, and you know, all the accompanying issues with highway. The second, what's something I would never make a change to? I would never want to change the chief of staff for the town of Huntington. Michelle McCarthy, she's sitting right off camera over there. And
she is excellent.
Yeah, she was pouting because she was.
Now she's pouting.
I forgot to introduce her at an event recently.
Oh,
that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
Never forget your chief of staff. That's if I, you know, there's a, you know, I don't think it's intended. There's a trap in the question, and that is like, what would you never change? It's hard to say, because, you know, would you, you know, we say I would never change Heckscher Park, you know, one of the crown jewels. But then you say, well, you know, periodically the park needs to be upgraded and changed. So it's, you know, you could say I don't want to change anything, hit the full stop button, freeze everything in the town. But there's always something that has to be changed, and something that's a gem, but it has to be maintained.
Right, and you're expanding Heckscher Park.
Well, it's technically we are not expanding Heckscher Park, but in practical matters we are. It's actually on the Village Green side.
Oh, right.
It's on the east side of Sabbath Day Path. There's 4 houses, which as a practical matter, it will extend that park complex. There's actually 3 separate parks. There's one south of 25A by the Armory and in front of the YMCA, and then there's the Village Green north of 25A.
Great place to bring your little kids to climb trees, because the trees are very low.
Yes, they are. And then you have the line of 4 houses that the town the town has acquired. I think actually we have to acquire 2 of them, but we have contracts on those. And then those houses will come down, and it'll create an open space, essentially from Prime Avenue all the way through Heckscher Park, which is really the active parkland that we have. And then once you get into the Village Green area, it's a passive parkland. And
but
then,
it gives you better access to the Village Green.
Yes.
Cool.
So that
answers the question. Internally, I was wondering what you're going to do with the houses.
No, they're coming down, but the park, it's not going to be a passive park to the extent that we let it overgrow and wild, you know, have wild overgrowth. But it's not there's not going to be playgrounds put in there or ball fields put in there. So it's going to be that sort of semi-passive.
Beautiful place.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, historian Hughes.
Yeah, Robert Hughes.
He's got a plan, I'm sure, because that's a very important place for the founding of the town. Okay, town congestion and parking. We got to move on to that.
Sure.
Huntington Village has become a huge cultural and economic hub with people coming in from all over the region, but limited parking and traffic congestion are the result. What is your plan to improve parking and traffic flow, not just in Huntington Village, but in other overcrowded hamlets like Cold Spring Harbor and Northport, while still supporting our local businesses? That's a good question. Right?
That is also a very good question, but it's.
I think that was hard.
Yeah. So parking, parking, as we saw a few years ago, it's a complicated issue because you have competing interests for the existing parking. Particularly, using Huntington Village as an example, but it extends to all the commercial areas in the town, Cold Spring Harbor and Green Lawn, et cetera. And that is that you have even the business interests in those areas are competing for the same parking spaces because you have some merchants who are what we call quick serve merchants. So, a pizzeria or, value drugs or something. Their customers are coming in, they're shopping for 15 minutes and they're going. So they want a lot of turnover on the parking spaces. And then you have longer term parking needs, such as restaurants that somebody's going to sit down for an hour or 2 hours. And then you have really long term where, you have employees that work in the town. Okay. So, you have to balance all of these. And you also have tenants now. Right. There's
residential tenants.
There's been, over the last 20, 25 years, there's been a lot of residential tenants in these downtown areas. So they don't want to, they want very long-term parking. They want overnight parking. So you have these all commercial interests, but with competing needs. And the balancing act that we have to come up with is, meters are, the misperception of parking meters isn't necessarily the money side of it. That's not, because the amount of money that they net to the town is negligible in a $240 million budget. It's the parking meters, once you pay the costs of them and the operating and collecting and the whole bit, it's very little. Okay. And one of the bigger functions of meters is to get parking turnover, is so that somebody doesn't park their car there for 2 weeks at a time.
Right.
And, we see that in the unmetered municipal lots. You'll see vehicles there. Sometimes, and I invite people anytime it snows, go to the unmetered parking lot 2 or 3 days later. You'll see a car that still has a foot of snow over it because the car hasn't moved. And it probably, sometimes we find out that the owner of the car is in Florida for a month. So those, these are the types of things that we have to balance. So the answer is, I know that there's a question about a parking garage that's been talked about for 30 years in Huntington Village. And there was a parking study done about 10 years ago, 15 years ago now, I think, by I think it was either the Chamber of Commerce or the Huntington Village BID that did the parking study with the town's involvement in the Patron administration. And one of the first things that the parking study said was you have to meter every municipal spot in Huntington Village, because if you don't, in order to build a garage, you'd have to meter it to pay for the cost of the construction, pay for the bonding for the garage, and you'd probably bring in a professional garage operator that is going to want to have paid parking in a parking garage. But the problem with that is if you have all these unpaid, free parking all around it, the parking garage is going to be the last place a driver goes. Yeah. So you're not going to, it will only get occupied on the busiest Friday nights, Saturday nights. It's the parking of last resort. So the rest of the time, nobody's ever going to park there as a garage. It would fail, business wise. So you'd wind up, and how you pay for it. It's an expensive proposition. So it's a complicated answer to a deceptively complicated question. Where you have a lot of competing interests. We started out with the idea 3 years ago to meter some of the municipal lots closest to the Main Street and New York Avenue and the merchants in the municipal lots, and that went over poorly. we had folks coming in,
very poorly,
singing songs at the town board meeting. It didn't go well. So, but so we canceled that. But
do you think those same people would want a parking garage?
Well,
It's interesting.
yeah,
right?
they would
want it, but
probably.
they don't want to pay for it.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
That's right. They would say yes, but somebody else should pay for it.
Yeah.
So like, there's no free parking.
Right.
Somebody's
right,
always
right.
paying for parking. It's just
Right.
it's a question of who.
It's out of your tax dollars.
So,
or what. Yeah.
So there's as I said,
Interesting.
competing interests, not just for the merchants, not in the businesses, but the residents. I mean, what we have now is a variety of different types of parking, whether it's on street, metered, off street. There's there's some private parking areas that I think some of the bigger operators like the Paramount and the hotel have contracted with private property owners to use their parking.
Smart.
So that's the resolution. But the flip side of it is the real problem with parking for the merchants is when the parking lots are empty.
Right.
That's
and
it.
people are avoiding coming because of the conception. I mean,
Right. It's the Yogi Berra phrase. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
right.
That's the problem for
Right.
the real parking problem is when it's all available because nobody's there.
Right,
That's what the merchants would hurt them the most.
Yeah, exactly. All right, housing. This is another huge one we have to get to. This is the number one submitted question. What can the candidates do to bring in more workforce and actually affordable housing for our graduates and seniors? How do you plan to encourage developers to build for this underserved group? And the caveat is this is saying that even the affordable housing formula is too expensive.
Well,
For those affordable apartments, that there's a big subset of the community that can't even touch those.
right.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yes. So there's a practical reality to this, and that is if we mandate the affordable component to be too low, the cost of construction doesn't go down with it.
Right.
So nothing gets built. If you turn around and say, okay, this building you can only charge $1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment,
Then
you're not getting anything.
Right.
Okay, so the formula itself is based off the area median income in Nassau, Suffolk County, in this area, and as we see on Long Island, it's and it's set by HUD. So
Right.
nationally,
That's
when you compare it nationally, Long Island, Huntington in particular, has a very high area median income,
Right,
a very
because
high
we have
AMI.
A section of maybe a small amount of people that are extremely high earners, possibly, and then a very large section of lower.
Well,
So maybe we should look at that. Just
yeah,
at the
but-
town level, I don't know. That's the
well, that's
advocacy
in order to get the grant funding and everything goes with it. We have to comply with these federal guidelines
Right.
when it comes to affordable and workforce housing and all this formula is set, and it's not something that the town meddles with.
Right.
We can't. But one of the in a large way we are a victim of our own success in Huntington, in that people want to live here, and the greater the demand for the existing housing and the greater the demand for new housing, the higher the price is going to be. That's just a market reality. That's another problem, is speeding.
Yes. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, somebody just went racing by.
Like really loud.
Speeding, and just as
Yeah,
the town doesn't do
yeah.
law enforcement, but I can tell you that in my conversations with the police commissioner, Kevin Catalina in the county, it was the number one topic that he brought up, I brought up, said we got it. And I know that traffic safety, which includes speeding, at the county level is the police department's number one priority.
Yeah.
After I think the gang task force but that's the quality of life issue that they're very focused on. But that's off topic. Anyway,
that's a later question, but we
okay.
covered it now.
Okay, but the housing. I mean, the best that we can do in the town of Huntington is, because first of all, one of the things I tell everyone, we're not going to. The market is going to fluctuate in the value of homes, but I don't want to do anything that is going to diminish the value of real estate in Huntington. My role as town supervisor is not to set a policy or do anything that is going to hurt property values in the town. I think it would be wildly unfair and quite frankly pretty stupid to set a policy on real estate in Huntington that's going to take existing homes, people who own their homes, and do something that's going to lower the value of their house. Now, will the price of housing go up and down? It always does, yes. Can I predict it? No, I can't, but I just know it will fluctuate. Right now, we are at a very high end of that cycle. And will it go higher? I'd like to think it's because of all the great things that we're doing in the town, but it's a economic cycle. But I just want to make sure that there's nothing that the town is doing that's going to diminish the value of somebody's home. And that's where you get into, again, competing interest with somebody who doesn't own a home and wants to. And it's like, I'm not going to diminish their home value so that you can buy it. Simple as that.
Got it. Okay.
And that's
interesting.
That's a bitter
You wouldn't
pill.
want it done to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
that's a
it's
bitter
true.
pill to swallow for
It
some
is
people that
true.
want to buy a house.
Diane's giving us, we got to do the next question. All of the candidates have stated that they're against developing. I think we touched on this, so we could make this one quick. But all have also stated that they're in favor of creating housing for seniors and young adults who can't afford to stay in Huntington. What is your plan to accommodate both interest groups?
Well, to start with, I don't think I've ever said that I was against development. And not to get into semantics, but I'm against overdevelopment, and I think there's a world of difference. And I'll give Greg Grisopoulos, last night he summed it up quite well when he said, nobody wants overdevelopment, but nobody's for zero development.
Right.
You got to find a happy place in between where, and the answer that I go with and what I do is I look at every application on that application's merits. And you have to weigh what they're proposing. And one of the first things, okay, what will be the impact to the surrounding properties? That's step one. And to answer the second part of the question, right now we have obviously the big one is the Melville Town Center Overlay District, but there's also development proceeding in Huntington Station along, right. And when I say proceeding, step one, and this is true everywhere on Long Island, step one is sewers.
Sewers, yeah.
If you don't have sewers, you're not building it. Well, I shouldn't say you're not building anything. You're building, according to the county code, half acre. If you don't have half an acre, you're going to be on a cesspool.
Right.
You cannot be on a cesspool with less than half an acre. So unless you have sewers, you're not building.
And all the Huntington Station plots are far less than that.
Far less.
They're hundreds.
But they're already built.
Yeah, exactly. They're already grandfathered.
But that's also another aspect of Huntington, which is the town is fully developed. It's of the buildable property in Huntington. I think the number is 97% of privately owned buildable property in the town already has something on it. So the reality is there is no development in Huntington, new development in Huntington. It's only redevelopment in Huntington. So in order to build anything in Huntington, something is coming down to put something else up.
Right.
That's just a reality. It's not. Other towns on Long Island have open space. They can make decisions on what they're doing with open space. In the town of Huntington, we're not developing open space. It's highly unusual to develop open space. There's very little of it in Huntington. You're taking down an existing building or an existing structure to put up a new one. And that's step one is what's the impact of the new one going to have on the existing surrounding property and neighborhood.
Gotcha. So do you think that the just for you question is appropriate to ask here or after the Melville Town Center?
Let me see what my special
about
question.
The zoning board and ZBA committee and the people who sit
Doing
on
it.
it. Right? May as well do it now. Okay,
Sure.
now that we're talking about it, spend
You're
3
talking
minutes
about it.
doing it.
Yeah. So I'll start by
We're
just.
gonna have to go a little over. We'll give Cooper the same. Yeah. We have the time today.
So let me just start with
Let's read the question.
Okay.
A lot of people are not happy with all the variances granted by the zoning board, so this is relevant. Will you replace any committee members who currently sit on the ZBA, which is the zoning board committee, as Bob Bontempi's term is up and Mark McAteer, who is ESPA's chairman, term expires December 2025, and ESPA is the open space.
Open space.
Right, they
Yeah.
have like a nice pot of money that they supplement
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
Yep.
in the town. It's a
And that's
very
on,
important
on your
committee.
tax bill.
Yeah,
They-
very important committee. So there's your question.
Yes. Okay. So two things, procedural things on ZBA and planning for that matter. These committees, I think there's a misperception in the public as to how they operate. And it's usually, I don't say it as a tongue in cheek, but they're a lot like the U.S. Supreme Court.
All right. Well, not a lot of people are familiar with that either.
And I say that because what happens is the town board can appoint somebody to the ZBA and to the planning board, but once they're there, they're independent of the town board,
right.
and it would be it. And I get requests and people demand all the time, you need to call the zoning board and tell them how to vote on this, and I'm like, no, that's not how this works. So I don't call them. In fact, people sometimes are surprised that I don't call up the zoning board and say you need to vote this way, that way. They are an independent body. I think that Jerry Asher is doing a fantastic job on the ZBA as the chairman and guiding it. I think Bob Bontempi is as well. I don't foresee any radical changes to the ZBA, and I think.
Oh, you're gonna re-up them.
What's that?
You'll re-up.
Well, we'll listen.
You'll discuss it. You'll bring it up.
We'll discuss it, and it's honestly, it hasn't been something that's come across my desk and started looking at what they're doing. And in the question, I would say, a lot of people. When when I see that, and when I'm in elected office and I see the term "a lot of people," that's like we're doing it for the children. A lot of people. What's a lot of people? What is a lot of people? No, that's a real question. You asked, give me the definition of what is a lot of people. I know, but
so for me, a lot of people is 12. In our environment that we deal with would be probably 100, 75 to 100.
Okay.
To me, would be a lot of people in the context of the 45,000 that we deal with daily.
Right. So I mean, that a lot of people. Right. So I don't know what that means. And the second part of it is a lot of people are not happy with all the variances granted. Right. I think that they mean give me a specific example of what
parking ones and the unpopular ones that have already been expressed to you.
I've been very critical of some of the previous members of the town board. It came up during the primary. That's the gateway for development, particularly in the downtown areas, is parking variances.
Right.
And I don't think the ZBA has granted any recently in the downtown areas for parking variances, because Chad Lupinacci, when he was a supervisor, myself as councilman, we tightened up all the parking requirements, the height. I know that building down there at 280 New York Avenue is an issue. Okay, but that was approved in 2016, and there's all sorts of chatter about no, it's not. Yes, it is. The record speaks for itself. It was 2016 that it was approved. The only thing that was before the planning board was the design of the windows, and so the planning board works on the placement of the site plan. So it's it was a previous grant by the ZBA. I think they needed 28 parking spaces and they had 6. And in 2016, the ZBA granted them a 22 spot parking variance. That's your green light to build. Yeah. The planning board does the site layout. So all this, after the fact, pulling, it's nonsense. But anyway, so and the ESPA committee, and I saw Mark McAteer yesterday. We were at the Crippen House together. I think Mark McAteer does a great job at ESPA as well. But it's important to note that the ESPA committee is advisory. The ESPA committee, they get applications for purchase of open space. They get applications for park improvement, neighborhood enhancement, all sorts of applications that they, as a board, they vet those applications and they decide whether, in their purview, whether they will advise the town board to vote yes or no on it. So the ESPA committee itself, they give an advisory opinion.
Correct. The authority to go, here's a check.
Yes. Yeah. So you'll see in town board agenda, you'll see resolutions, excuse me, that authorize the disbursement of ESPA funds for a particular project that typically the ESPA committee has already vetted and said yes to. But there are occasions where the town board will say, even if the ESPA committee says, no, we don't think this is a good project, the town board will say, well, we disagree and we're going to do it anyway, and vice versa, where ESPA will say, we love this project, but we say no. And that's happened in the past. It doesn't happen very often, but that's the difference between a binding decision, whether it's by zoning or planning, versus an advisory opinion by any of the advisory boards. But Mark McAteer, I think, is doing a fabulous job. It's worth praising him again. He runs the
I don't think I've met him.
Laurel Group, the landscaping.
Right.
And again,
that's an appropriate
yeah,
I would think.
But he's what he does. He's one of these folks that we can reach out to at any time and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll put his landscape design hat on and say, hey, you can. It would be faster, better, easier, cheaper to use these materials. And it's he does a lot of work for the town that doesn't get recognition. So I always like to recognize him for what he does. He's a good citizen of the town of Huntington. It helps us out a lot, and he's got a tremendous amount of professional experience at it.
That's awesome. All right, next question. Yep. Melville Town Center. Now that developers will be submitting their plans for the Melville Town Center, how do you plan to keep the hearings for each project fair and above reproach?
Well, they're all going to be public. That's number one. Number two, well, I should say number one, all of these applications still have to go through the normal planning department requirements, and they go through the vetting process and the planning process as a whole. And
so they have to clear that first.
Yeah, they go through all of those fiery hoops in the planning department. But all of the public hearings will be, they're public hearings. I would probably say we'll probably try to do them down in Melville again.
Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think big ones like big applications like this should be as local to the site as possible.
Yeah. What about the fire department? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But it's
You're gonna yell at me.
And then the nature of the Melville Town Center is, I think, in terms of transparency on that, you're going to have a tremendous amount of media interest in it. And we've already seen, the first application that was submitted got reported in Newsday. With pictures and everything. I was like, wow, okay. So that it's going to be the proposals that come in, I think, are the nature of the Melville Town Center plan is something that it's piqued the public interest enough that the major media, including Huntington Matters, being a major media in Huntington, we'll cover.
Where's the pin, Maggie? Give him a pin. Let's go.
I get to keep the mug. It will be widely reported. You'll get the social media as well. That's going to report it. You'll get the all of those experts that will weigh in on it. But it's
and we will make sure we get the word out about any public hearings coming up. They'll be recorded, live streamed, right?
I think
now the one that was submitted, is it like legit submitted, or was it like check this out?
No. It's
going through
it's
the
been
paces?
filed.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
nice.
it's
cool.
And it's I don't mind saying it's what we envisioned the applications would look like. Now, obviously, there's going to be some tweaking to it, and move. It's not a final plan, but what the developers brought to the town is what the residents asked for, what we asked for. It starts out, and it's a key piece. The site is at the corner of where Melville Park Road comes into Maxis Road.
Okay.
And then I think it's Corporate Center Drive.
It's
a corner piece. So it's
not the quadrangle.
No, it's not the quadrangle part.
It's one of the ones across.
It's on the east side of Maxis. Basically, towards the north end of where.
Okay. We drove it.
Yes.
I'm visualizing it.
Where Newsday is, it's directly across the street from their front door. I think it's that corner piece there. So it's important because it is it would be an anchor tenant in the shopping center real estate world. They call it, it's an anchor tenant. It's a marquee site. It's a large site, and it's I think it's going to set the tone for the projects that
Others
come
to
in.
start following.
Because
Yeah.
when these developers come to us and they say, okay, what do you want? You know, I don't have to describe it. All I got to do is point and say, you see what they did over there?
Yeah.
You know, do something like that.
So quick question, when they submitted it, was there back and forth, like a little bit, what do you think of this?
Oh, yeah,
No, go back to the
yeah,
drawing
no,
board. What do you think of that? Go back to the drawing board.
they brought in several iterations, which
Okay.
were, you know, they weren't fully developed drawings, but they were
Right.
just like, you know,
Ideas.
schematics, and it was, you know, several times, you know, go fish, you know.
That's good.
You know,
So you guys
because
taking it back, yeah.
yeah, and then quite honestly, the final version that they came in with was actually, I think, more than what we were asking for. They actually set back the property even farther from the buildings, even farther from the road, because again, one of the key features that we're looking for in Melville is this walkable downtown pedestrian space. And so they, I think the code calls for 30 feet. I think they exceeded
I thought it was
that.
40. Sorry. Go
30,
ahead.
40? No, I think it's 30.
Okay,
But
30.
but they did that, and you know, they just put in a lot of features because, you know, I think for their property, they want it to be as appealing as possible as well.
To attract tenants.
So that's, and again, what they also came in with was a whole, just on that one site was a whole variety of property housing options, which some's owner occupied.
Okay,
So,
great.
you know, there's
apartments.
some are rentals, some are owner occupied, some are live work apartments, where probably for professional space, like if you have a dentist in your neighborhood where they have the sign out front, or a, you know, an architect or a lawyer that works out of their house. So they have some units that are live work units. So there's a whole variety of housing options down there. And it, you know, to get back to your first question, 20% hits the affordability requirements.
Yes.
Now, like, you know, like I said, you know, affordable isn't
very
affordable on Long Island, but it is,
Right.
you know, it is what it is. But they hit that 20% mark. So, you know, as I said, the application that came in is something that we're happy with, and you know, they hit the green space requirements. The fire department is going to get their fees. It's you know, they hit the mark. You know, so I'm
good
pretty happy
to
with
hear that there's something that fits the vision. I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. Maybe we can have a separate one about that and go through the project with the developer. All right, residents frequently express frustration with the responsiveness of the town, particularly regarding illegal housing, illegal apartments, and rundown properties. What specific changes would you implement to make the town more proactive, efficient, and effective in addressing violations, which comes back to what you said last night, customer service?
Customer service, yes. That's
Right?
so that's our one of our key campaign pledges. You know, looking into the next administration, you know, if we're reelected, we'll, you know, and Dave Bernardo's on board with this, and I know Greg is, and Andre. You know, we want to change the culture in Huntington Town Hall to a customer service or resident service oriented town hall, so that, you know, and again, nothing new and nothing unique to Huntington, but the perception, particularly in local government, municipal government, you can't fight city hall, you know, that kind of mentality that, you know, it's not, like I said, it's not unique to Huntington, but that municipal governments are unresponsive,
Right.
you know, and that's something we're going to focus on and change. You know, the last 4 years was focused on maintenance, you know, unapologetic maintenance, getting things that have been neglected for decades rebuilt, refurbished, vehicles, heavy equipment, parks, beaches, roads, garbage. Go into maintenance mode. We did that. We've delivered for the voters. We did it economically, fiscally responsibly. We delivered on the maintenance side of the town. We're going to continue doing that, but now we you know, having been there in this role for 4 years, seeing that, okay, the thing that's screaming for attention is customer service. You know, and that's where we're going to focus.
If DMV could do it,
Yes.
Huntington can do it.
Yes, we can.
I haven't been in
I mean-
DMV in a long time. 10 years, I think, you're licensed before it expires.
Well,
Dramatically different experience.
I don't
more
wanna-
positive now.
I don't want to paint too bleak of a
For
picture of town
DMV.
hall. I mean,
no,
yeah, certainly
I'm
there's
just
some.
saying that was
yeah.
a huge transformation, and
Yeah.
there's technology there, and I think it's definitely possible.
Well, one of the key building blocks that we've already started with is
That's
OpenGov,
Mhm.
the program that we've been using, and we've gotten, like, for example, the building department. You know, when I came into office, the average wait time for a building permit was 14 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard that a lot.
okay, we're now doing in some cases same day permitting. You know, you come in,
Right.
you come in and ask for a permit, and if you have your paperwork, everything is done. You know, that's unusual, to be fair, but you know, but I've heard plenty of cases where people come in for a permit, they go through the paperwork, they sit there and they leave the building with the permit in hand.
Yeah.
You know, so or you know, the time for building inspections, which on the professional side is the bane of their existence, is waiting for they complete a job, they complete a plumbing job, or they you know, and they're waiting for the inspection to sign off on it. We've compressed that timeline as well. And one of the things that we're looking into and working with state reps on is having a professional certification aspect where you know, a licensed professional can sign off. The city of New York does this, and other municipalities
like
do
a
it as well.
professional will go through Huntington training and then get certified.
Yeah, you get certified. So if you're
Right.
if you're a licensed plumber, you can sign off on another licensed plumber's work. I think.
Interesting.
I think New York City has a self-certification.
Okay.
Okay, where if you can certify the work is done. I'm right now, until I see more detail on this, I'm not comfortable with that.
Interesting.
You know, I would, but I would like to explore. Again, it's early stages, but I would like to explore the idea of, you know, an same licensed profession could sign off on another licensed professional's work, so that you have a second set of eyes on it. It's not, you know, an engineer isn't signing off on his own drawings, you know, or architect. You could submit it and have another licensed engineer sign off on it.
All right,
and again, the idea on that is to, you know, to compress the timelines.
Yeah, yeah. So we did touch on this. This is how would you take advantage of technology and new communication strategies to increase transparency in town government and make it easier for busy residents to stay informed and participate in the decision-making process. That was part of that, I believe.
It is.
Are you comfortable with that answer? Because we are, like, this is what we're looking at. And I'm okay, because when's the next one? 12:30.
12:30.
Yeah, we have Cooper at 12:30. So I'm okay.
No,
Greg.
I'll go all day.
Yeah.
You know,
as long as
could-
they'll listen, right?
I cannot stop talking sometimes.
I know, yeah. So which
I cannot
one of
not talk.
these- Well, we talked about fiscal, definitely already covered that. The fiscal, open space. Oh, hey, that one's for you too.
Oh yeah, the Conti Center.
Conti Center. I have an idea.
I'd love to hear it, but I'll tell you. Let me just give you.
Now.
I'll give you a brief update. You want
CBA for the new developments
update.
coming into
Brief update.
110.
Tomorrow.
CBA?
Yeah,
Brief
CBA to help fund the balance of Conti.
Okay.
Right? What do you think?
So let me
Brief
start.
update.
Brief update.
Yeah.
So you start with the history of the Conti Center. It used to be the State Armory.
Yes.
Okay. And the
With cooties.
cooties on steroids.
Cooties on steroids, which means asbestos all over the place everywhere you turn.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was a mess.
I think the town paid $1 for the property and they overpaid for it. You know, it's. But right now it's being used as a general services yard. There's materials, you know, gravel, sand, everything in the back of the property, and the building itself. It does have a large open space, almost like a hangar, like a gymnasium style, in the middle of the armory building itself, which is being used to house Maritime's boats in the wintertime, and also the stage.
That big?
Oh yeah, it's a large enclosure. Okay, but you know, as we said, the pipes and the insulation, it's a disaster.
I thought Frank removed it all, but anyway, go ahead. There's other issues.
Yeah, there's other issues. To repurpose that building, and any builder, any contractor will tell you it's always easier to knock it down and build it. You know, start from scratch. It's always faster, cheaper, easier, more efficient to take down a building and build. And you can build the new one to look just like the old one. It'll still be, far less expensive. But that's what should have happened when it was acquired 20 years ago. And it in addition to that, the plan that was put together for the Conti Center as a community center is borderline outlandish on what was put in. It was the idea. If you go look at the original plans that were actually put out to bid, it was a little slice of everybody's interest. It was as I would say, it tried to please everybody and wound up pleasing nobody. I think one of the iterations of it had a running track that actually went an elevated running track that went out the side wall of the building, went out over the roof and like looped around and came back in the other side of the building, which, that would be fantastic if we lived in New Mexico, but we get snow here in New York, and ice. It gets, it doesn't really work to have an outdoor running track elevated over the building and it was, the Zumba studio that was in there, maybe, I could probably use it. Could it be
pickleball now? Could it be a flex space?
Well, that's fast forward. Fast forward. It was the idea now, or concept now, is to go with what's referred to as a butler building, which I'm just parroting what the building department.
Explain what that is.
I will be happy to. I don't know what it is. I didn't know what it is. A butler building is a fancy way or a industry way of saying, the steel frame buildings, like a field, like a gymnasium field house, but it's a steel frame.
Yes.
And I think St. Anthony's has one in their track. That's in the industry they call it a butler building. I guess.
My husband put them on.
I guess Mr. Butler invented these things, so now his name's attached to them. But anyway, the reason why we're looking towards a building like that is they're modular in their construction. So when there's a lot of bolt-on options you can do with them, so that if the trend is we don't want to do Zumba anymore, now we want to do pickleball, or we want to do some, whatever the next great activity is. These are the type of things that inside the building you can modify the structure. They're designed to be modified and extended.
Big deal.
It is, but they're also
modify that.
But they're also,
I guess, easier than a brick building.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. They're far less expensive. They're still expensive. They're still millions and millions of dollars, but they're far less expensive than renovating an existing concrete and brick building.
They're just really industrial looking.
And the bond would work with this.
And
say again?
And the bond,
the bonded money, the money that we have already.
I believe that. Well, that's the bonded money. In the town, we have several projects that we bonded for that never got built. The animal shelter is another one, but just so the taxpayers, and this is why the fiscal responsibility side, just so the taxpayers are not panicking over the fact that we borrowed this money, we're paying interest on the money to municipal bondholders,
and we have nothing for it.
And we have nothing for it. Not exactly true. What we have is that money is sitting in reserve accounts, and what's happened in the bond market, and the capital markets recently, not to get too technical, but we borrowed this money at about 3%, and we're putting it into reserve savings accounts, and the town is earning about 5% on it. And we had the problem that we ran into on now I'm getting into the fiscal nuances, the weeds, but one of the problems we had with this is, as a town, we were earning money on bonded money, which you're not allowed to do.
Oh yeah.
The IRS takes a dim view of municipalities engaging in bond arbitrage, so so our bond counsel had to work it, to negotiate with the IRS, and we actually the town filed a tax return. I think it was a $0 tax return, because you look at the life of the bond and the whole bit. But during this period of time,
because it's income.
Yeah, it's income.
Yes.
We borrowed at 3, and we're
so I think you
lending
should
it back at
build
5.
Something. That's the answer. Is bring me my Conti Center, please, to my neighborhood. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's gonna be.
We're gonna work on it. You moving that far? Are you working on it?
I think there's a.
See, I think this is a good idea.
We're
community benefits agreement to the new developments that are coming in because of the sewers to Huntington Station. Why not? 2%?
Okay.
I don't know.
Make it 3.
Make it 3,
Make it
baby.
4. I don't. I'll be happy to look at it and how we're
Gateway
gonna.
had that.
Yeah.
The
no, it's-
Gateway building had that for the school district.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, we're in. Huntington Matters, changing the world. All right. What else do we have? Okay, wild card. Pick your, we're done technically, but pick what you want. One more and then closing and then we're done. Thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, I guess
I
a
know, we
closing.
kinda did
You want a
everything.
closing statement?
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
it's you know, you're going to see in the next term,
Mm.
if I'm reelected,
Mm-hmm.
a continued focus on parks, beaches, roads, and garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's my mantra as far as day-to-day operations in town hall. Those are the 4 big baskets of things that we work on. Obviously, you know, my job is at the budgetary level to make sure that, you know, we are spending the tax dollars wisely.
Mhm.
The hardest part of my job is to say no. I have to say no to great ideas, just as, you know, we can't afford every great idea. And, you know, every department head and director brings in great ideas all the time. And that's the hard part of the job, is saying, okay, you know, it's like any other budget. Maybe, you know, maybe next year, sorry. But I keep a sharp eye on the budget. You know, public safety is also another major overarching policy, townwide policy issue. But on a day-to-day, it's parks, beaches, roads, and garbage. And then, you know, going into the next term is going to be customer service. It has to that has to be addressed. You know, so
Very good.
that's
Awesome.
what we're going for.
Neighbors, go vote. November 4th is in-person voting, and early voting starts October 25th, goes till November 2nd, and that will be Dix Hills Fire Department and Huntington Public Library Station Branch. See you in a little while. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It was wonderful. We need to do